Welcome back to Midco Sports tonight. Well, we just showed you the highlights from all of our FCS matchups, so now it's time for Saturday's storylines. Let's break these games down, and to do that, we bring in, first of all, our South Dakota FCS experts, Jay Elsen and Tom Nieman. But Tom, we'll start with you.
Do we have to?
We do. We got to get out of the way. A 38-18 loss for the Jackrabbits on Hobo Day. Homecoming. I know it's your alma mater. But was it the perfect storm for SDSU? I mean, not only the weather, which was horrible, but just the whole game.
For both teams.
Yes.
Yeah. Everything that could go wrong did go wrong for the Jacks in this game, and it went right for Northern Iowa early on. And the Jacks have not had a game this year where they've made this many mistakes, especially in special teams. Special teams have been great all year, but here are the pictures that go with this tale of woe. The fumble on a punt return. The Jacks give up a field goal after this. And then they come out and a Taryn Christian interception. It goes back to the 3-yard line, and Northern Iowa takes that in for a touchdown after he gets knocked out there. So it's already going downhill here, and they get a short run on a touchdown to make it 10-0. Jacks give up another touchdown to get down 17-0, and then a fumble on a kickoff return. The thing is, though, they stopped the Northern Iowa on downs after this mistake here, and it's still 17-0. They force another fumble. The Jacks do, but they miss a field goal, which they haven't done all year. They get a touchdown, but they give up a touchdown. They get down to Northern Iowa's 15-yard line at the end of the first half, and they miss a fumble, a snap on a field goal attempt. It was just everything that could go wrong did go wrong. They get down 24-6 at halftime, lose 38-18. It's just like, for every positive, there's a negative right now. Taryn Christian threw for 280 yards. That's the most he's thrown for all year, but just 40% completions in this game. That's his season low, and there's all kinds of things. Jake Winicky is tied for first in the Missouri Valley right now with 8 touchdown catches, but his longest reception of the year has been 26 yards is all. They haven't hit the long ball from Taryn Christian to Jake Winicky. It's just there's a lot of things that are just not right now for the Jackrabbits.
I feel like they're going to hit that long ball, though, and I'm afraid of who it's going to be against.
Eventually they hopefully will. There's 5 games left to do something, yeah.
They will. Yeah, we're about halfway through. Well, yeah. Jay and I had much better weather in the Dakota Dome down in Vermillion, and a big win for the Oats. But here's the thing, huge emotional win over Youngstown last week. It was kind of the setup for a trap game with Indiana State, a winless team, but USD came out and I mean, they didn't play down to Indiana State's level, but I think the biggest thing was the explosive plays.
Oh, yeah. Offensively, this team has been very good all season. They came in the number 1 offensive team in the country, averaging almost 540 yards per game, but they took things to an entirely different level in this game. 705 yards of total offense, and those explosive plays you mentioned were a huge theme of the day. Coyotes had 10 of them that went 20 yards or more. 7 of their 8 touchdowns in this football game covered at least 22 yards. And to give a little more perspective on that, USD's scoring plays in this game, Kelly, amounted to 298 yards. Indiana State had 232 yards of total offense on the day. With all those great numbers, the Coyotes now averaging 563.5 yards per game, still first in the FCS, and it's by a full 15 yards. So this offense, while the Jackrabbits may be struggling a little bit on that side of the ball, the Coyotes have had no such issues to this point. They are clicking for sure.
And we're going to get to that question a little bit later, but first of all, we're going to head up to North Dakota to talk to Marty Mueller and Brian Shawn. So Marty, we'll start with you. The injury bug continues to plague the Fighting Hawks, this time biting senior quarterback Keaton Studsrud. Who can we expect to see at quarterback this week and the rest of the way for UND?
Well, Kelly, I think that's still a bit up in the air at this point. Studsrud got injured against that Northern Colorado team with a knee injury, and he didn't look too comfortable warming up on Saturday. He didn't play, obviously, and in steps a couple of backups in Brad Heidelbaugh and Andrew Zimmerman. Now, for the weekend, I'd say his status is probably around 50-50. You never know how a knee is going to respond, and we haven't heard yet whether he'll be practicing this week or not. So now if he isn't able to go, I would expect to see Andrew Zimmerman. That's just speculation. He played a little better on Saturday in the second half against the Grizzlies, going 7 of 14 with a touchdown. But he's obviously not Studsrud, who this team will miss dearly. He knows this offense better than anybody. But I would say if anybody's going to throw the ball on Saturday, it'll be Zimmerman.
Yeah, that injury bug really tough for UND, especially after everything they did last year. It's been tough to see what's happened on the injury front. But Bichon, a thriller over in Youngstown at the Igloo, but this was really the first test for NDSU, and I know people have been kind of on them like they're playing a soft schedule, let's see what they can actually do, and they passed the test. So what did you make of that?
Well, I thought it showed a lot of resolve from this group. And again, a majority of this team has been in games like this in the past. I mean, you think about last September, they won how many games in overtime or late in the game. And, this group just hasn't had that test this year. But I think they made some mistakes. I think they left some opportunities in the field. But I think Youngstown did too. And again, Youngstown had not lost at home since NDSU beat them in Youngstown back in 2015. So that's a tough place to go in and win and play well. And I thought the Bison matched them physically. I thought Youngstown State played physically. I really thought it was two hard-fought teams going after a victory. No turnovers, clean game for the most part, not a lot of penalties. And I think this is what you anticipate, a type of game like this in the Valley. Anytime you can get a road victory over a team like this that is a legit top 10 team, it's a huge, huge victory now that North Dakota State gets to play 3 of their last 5 games at home against some very, very good competition as well.
Well, you talked about just 5 games left, which is absolutely unreal to me. I feel like we just started football yesterday, so we're 6 games in, 5 games left. I mean, the expectations for this season are a little different than what we thought at the beginning. So what do you guys make of that, Tom?
I would, South Dakota State has not met expectations. That is to say the least right now. I think South Dakota is definitely living up to what people thought they could be this year. I think Youngstown State, now that they've gotten through South Dakota State and North Dakota State and USD, I think Youngstown State is going to run out the rest of the table and win their next 5 games. Then we come down to North Dakota State and USD at the top of the league as we get here late into the season, and they play each other coming up. So that game is going to probably determine who's going to have the top seed going into the playoffs.
Yeah, I think if there is a surprise right now, I think it is where the Jackrabbits are sitting. The fact that they're 1-2 and the Coyotes are 3-0 in the Valley, that's something that we are certainly not accustomed to seeing at this point in the season. But USD has certainly earned its position. There's no question. And I think the Jackrabbits, it's just a matter of time. They're gonna get things figured out. This team is far too talented to stay playing at the level they have a couple of the last 3 weeks. So I fully expect them to be in the conversation by the end of this season. But, South Dakota has done its part. I think we're seeing some of the other traditional powers. It's not just South Dakota State. UNI has struggled at times this year, didn't struggle in Brookings on Saturday. So are they going to do their traditional late season push? And then Illinois State, what to make of them right now? Because they've lost 2 games going away. And now they're hitting a really difficult stride or portion of their schedule coming up starting with USD this weekend. So I'm curious to see what the Redbirds are about.
I think they're going to go the other way. North Dakota State is the other team. They're not going to beat themselves, and they might run the table. I don't know what Brian thinks about that, but that's probably a really good possibility.
It's a possibility, but it's extremely difficult. I mean, it's really hard for a team to go unscathed through the Valley. I mean, let's look at last year even. South Dakota gave NDSU all it could handle. Year before, South Dakota beat NDSU in Fargo. So there's sometimes those unexpected games that just happen to go a certain way, and you have to play well every week. And you talk about not beating yourself. I mean, there's a reason why North Dakota State and South Dakota are one of the few remaining unbeaten teams. You look at turnover margin. These teams just don't turn the football over. If you don't beat yourself, you give yourself a really good chance. But Jay mentioned Illinois State, South Dakota State, 2 baffled head coaches. They are baffled why their teams are struggling so much with the talent they have on the field. And that's one of those things, now you're in the middle of the season, where do you look for answers? And somebody on one of these teams, from a student-athlete standpoint, has to step up and rally the troops and get those teams back on track. South Dakota State is capable. I think they're still very capable of having a late-season push, but they got to get it figured out. And that's the end of the day right now, is who's going to step up and make plays and get their teams back on the right track for those teams that are struggling. While North Dakota State, can they maintain what they're doing, and can South Dakota maintain what they're doing in terms of taking care of the football and really doing what they do, which is making teams drive the field on them and beat them.
Well, we can't leave Marty out of this one, but really quick, I mean, you talked about teams being baffled for whatever reason, whether it's, they're just not playing well or guys aren't stepping up. But Marty, the injuries for UND, I mean, they're halfway through struggling with those injuries. You still got half a season to play. So what's kind of been the vibe from the players, the coaches? I mean, are they throwing in the towel a little bit, or are they just going to keep going at it?
Well, yeah, I was going to say, you want to add somebody to the baffled boat, but Coach Bubba Swigert's got to be there now. What do you do with 15 guys out, and now you're starting quarterback too? The attitude, I would say, not quite defeated, but down. Obviously, this season had such high expectations, and to be where they are right now is unacceptable for them, I think. A lot of guys are saying they're not going to lay down. This isn't going to be the end of the year. We have a lot to build on yet, getting some young guys some experience. But not quite defeated, I say would be the attitude, but a lot of room for improvement and, some things still to play for yet, I guess.
All right, great Saturday storylines discussion, guys.
Don't start
Thank
feeling
you.
sorry for yourself. Just look at Grand Forks and what's going on
I
there
know,
and,
right?
what they've had to go through.
All right. Well, next on Midco Sports tonight, we switch from the gridiron to the ice to hear all about UND Hockey's weekend sweep of St. Lawrence. Alex Heinert has the recap. We'll be right back.